What up, y'all? Welcome back to another episode of the Pretty Girl Progression Podcast. I am your girl, Sherelle. If you are new here, welcome. I hope you stay. And if you've been here before, girl, welcome back. And as always, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Tell a friend to tell a friend. If you're listening on any of the streaming platform, please hit the follow button, as well as on YouTube, watching visually. Hit the subscribe button and turn on your post notifications so we can be up in your algorithm, okay? Now, y'all, as always, I have a very special guest. Now, I'm going to tell y'all all about this young lady. Well, actually, she's going to tell y'all about herself as we go along, okay? Now, she is a fellow podcaster. She is a new Miami, we'll say local, native, not yet. And y'all, give a virtual round of applause for Shantel. Shantel, how are you feeling? How are you doing today, my love?
I'm doing good. Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Of course, of course. A fellow podcaster on here. I want to be able to tell the people how I heard about you, because we haven't formally got to physically meet yet.
100%.
But my producer actually went to, I feel like it was a church conference, and he came back super excited, and he was like, you got to talk to this girl. You got to hear her story. She's from London. She moved out here. And I'm like, well, let's do it. I started going on the gram. I'm like, okay, let me find out more about this girl, because he was super hype, and he never steers me wrong. So that's how we are here now. So for the people who don't know you, how would you describe yourself, Shance?
Oh, in a nutshell, Melanin Barbie, Christian Melanin Barbie.
Let's go.
I am Melanin Barbie, Sporty Barbie, Diva Barbie. When people call me, say, oh, you just look like a life-size cell, I find that I take it as a compliment.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm a down to earth. Sometimes people don't get that from the exterior, but I'm truly just down to earth, a family person, a young woman on her journey with God. That's been an interesting journey. He gives me challenges and sees me through every day, which is why I'm in Miami. But I'm just me in a nutshell, Melly and Barbie.
Let's get into that. So you are originally born and raised in London, right? Yeah?
So, born in Texas. Born in
Texas.
Yes, born in Texas, raised in London.
Okay, so let's talk about your childhood, and we're going to progress on. So tell us a little bit about your childhood, any siblings, family. What was your childhood like?
Yeah, so I'm actually Nigerian. So that kind of gives it a overall of who I am. So I'm Nigerian. I was born in Texas. Unfortunately, my parents went together anymore at a very young age. Two. My mother took me back to London, where she was born. She was born in London, but raised in Nigeria. So she took me back to where some of her sisters were. I come from a really good family. So I have family in London, family in the States, family in Nigeria. So part of my family was in London. So she took me there. I am the oldest of four, well, including me, four. So I have two young sisters and a little brother. And growing up was interesting. So I'm from South London. And South London is a very, very complex place to grow up. So you have a little bit of everything. It's a melting pot. You have Nigerians, Jamaicans, Asians. So you just kind of had, Vietnamese, Chinese, So you just have Somalians. You kind of just have all these cultures melting together, which just kind of makes South London. All your great UK rappers that people love, Stormzy, Dave, they're all from South London, okay? They're all from South London.
I was going to ask, how old were you when you went from Texas back to London?
I think 2.
Oh,
because the age difference between me and my sister's 3. So 2.
So it was just your mom that moved back to London?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. And your siblings as well?
So so they're all younger. So they're all born in London.
Okay. So when I think of London, right, I think okay, you said it's a melting pot, but I didn't naturally think, okay, it's a melting pot. So what is it like being a Black woman or a Black young girl in London?
Well, a Black young girl in South London is great because, there's parts of South London where I grew up, which is just predominantly minorities. So Nigerians, Jamaicans, Ghanaians, Sierra Leone, Somali. So you don't feel out of place in parts of. So I grew up in Woolwich. So part of Southeast London, you don't feel out of place. You just feel very at home.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting. So, okay, so now you are a young girl in London and transitioning into womanhood. What was that like?
That was interesting. So I was raised Catholic. So, and I loved Jesus. I would leave my family because again, growing up Catholic, your Catholic church is always very walking distance from your school, from your home. So I would leave my family and be like, look, I want to go and be with Jesus, and I would leave.
Mm-hmm.
But turn 15, 16, you're we call it secondary school, you call it high school. And, you're thinking you're a lot older than you are.
Girl.
Start mixing up with guys and stuff. So that went on a more, well, that felt like going up. I was like, oh, okay, I've got my boyfriend. You move on from secondary school, then you go to what we call sixth form, which is like your 2 last years of high school.
Yes.
Again, you start working, start making money, you're learning how to drive. Like everything seems great, right? You're just on top of the world with what I know now, no boundaries. You're not abstaining from anything. You're not doing anything. You're just living life without any boundaries. And for a point in time, it feels great until it doesn't. Until you turn 21 and you have a car crash. So I had a car crash in 2015. I had a car crash. So my car was totaled. You guys say we call it written
Yes.
off. Car was done. I had whiplash. I had a neck cast on my neck. So then I couldn't get to work. So then I had to leave my job. So then that living life without no boundaries started to go down on a downward spiral. I had anxiety. I was feeling depressed. All the things that felt good before didn't feel good anymore. Smoking weed, having sex. I just felt very numb. So 21 was a very eye-opening. Well, I wouldn't say eye-opening. I'd say I don't even know what word to use, but kind of you're dying, but then you get shot back to life.
For sure. It's like a
So
renewal.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So 2020, I was being 21, the top of the year. So March, April, May, that kind of period was I was dying, dying. And that summer, I got shot back to life with God. So I was so down. There was nothing else I could think of but to cry out to God. So I'm on my knees, God, I know it's been a while.
And that's okay.
It's been a while, but I need help. I need help. And from there, I went back to church, Catholic church at first. And I'm rushing to the priest, pray over me, put holy water, do it, help me. And he was like, yeah, I'm going to pray for you, but have you kind of gone to get help? I'm like, but we're Christians. What do you mean? You are the help, right? He was like, no, have you gone to a therapist? Have you gone to seek help? And I was like, oh. Kind of being a Christian, you can actually go to a therapy.
For
that
sure.
seems so far away. So I went to the doctors. They referred me to a therapist. So I started off with treatment, so cognitive behavioral treatment. So I did that, 6 sessions of that, and then I did 6 sessions of counseling. So that took me back on a journey of healing. At the same time, my friend was at a conference, a Hillsong conference, and she sent me one of the sermons. So I was listening to that. It was Jensen Franklin at the time. So I was listening to Jensen Franklin every day. I was going back to church. I was in therapy. So those 3 months was me on bed rest, not real bed rest, but kind of in that healing phase. And then that was the real beginning of the journey that I've been on now for the last 9.5 years.
It's interesting because that car crash really shook you up.
Oh, yeah.
So because I know how it is, being 21 years old at the time, dating somebody that the Lord was telling me and pushing me away from, girl, this man gonna kill you. And that's when I realized, number one, God is very real. God has been ordering my steps and protecting me, and it's me being hard-headed. So it was God's like divine protection carrying me out of that relationship. So I got to a point where I had to like surrender and cry out to God. And I used to ask people to pray for me all the time, but then I realized like, well, I can't just be having everybody else pray for me. I need to go to God.
Yeah.
So it reminded me of that. So the thing about your car accident, what was the thing that shook you up the most? Was it because like you had the brace, or did you have like a spiritual encounter at that moment where you were like, oh, God is really like knocking at my door?
So two things. So growing up, I was always scared of death. So the thing about, even though I love Jesus, there was something about death I just could not comprehend. Like, I just need to know, give me a glimpse, God, of what heaven looks like. Just give me something so I kind of have a little bit of peace that something happens after you die. Are we just in the ground, or is there, like, I get you're talking about heaven, but what is it really? So I always had this like fear of dying, or people, my loved ones dying. Like, death in me, just, which I'm not saying I'm best friends with death now, but I have a bit more peace when it comes to death.
Yeah, I understand.
So when I was in that car crash, I was on the M25, which is like a major motorway, major highway.
Like a 95 in Miami.
Yeah, so something very fast. So I'm doing like 95 miles per hour, and my car just begins to slow down, slow down. I'm like hitting the accelerator and it's just slowing down, slowing down. I stop in the middle of the road. I'm not in the slow lane where, I can kind of like get out the car. My car just stops. It's not coming on. So the first car hits me from behind, bang. It hits me, but it's able to kind of like, it hits me, but I don't know how it's gone to the side, which means the second car can hit me direct. So it's not like a second car is hitting the car, is hitting me directly. The third thing that was going to hit me was a large bus. Yeah. So if I didn't have my seatbelt on, these impacts were so much up, it would have sent me through the windscreen. So I'm in shock, the somehow the tires are on my foot. So I can't, so they're like, they're pulling me out the car from the passenger side. So it was just a surreal, not surreal, but I just couldn't believe what was happening to me. One, my mom told me not to drive that day. She was like, hey, just like, double check that your car is 100% okay. And I was like, no, I'll be fine. Like, when I get back to like uni, because that's what I was going back to, it'll be fine, it'll be fine. So one, I was like, oh my God, why didn't I listen to my mother? I could have just died right now. So I'm just like, there's just all this shocked emotions going through me. I get back and I kind of like, the next couple of days I'm calming down, but something in me just wants to get back to living life. I just want to put that to bed. Okay, you had a car crash, you survived, hallelujah.
The next day?
Like a couple of days. So like 2 days later, I wanted to just like put it to bed and go, but my body didn't let me, because now my neck is being stiff. I'm like, I can't turn my neck. So even though mentally, I just wanted to put that to bed and go, because that's what my whole life has been. Something bad happens, okay, I'm Nigerian. We don't do, like, as a woman, you just carry on going, carry on going. So that's mentally what I was trying to do, but my body wasn't letting me.
Whoa.
So that's when, I have to go to the doctor, like, check me out. Oh, my back feels stiff, my neck feels stiff. So my body's slowing me down. And while it's slowing me down, a friend says, like, when I explained the car crash to them, they're like, have you gone to church? Like, and I was like, no. I actually, it's almost like I've just been wanting to put that to bed, like, thank you, God, but run back. So that's how, so it was spiritual, yes, because in that moment, I was prepared to die. I didn't see how I was getting out of the car. So this fear I've had of death, in that moment when I was actually facing death, I wasn't scared.
Wow. Well,
Then,
sorry to cut your wisdom.
No.
I'm curious about this. So prior to you actually getting to the accident, did you already have these questions lingering to ask God? And did you have people around you passing where you were wanting to know about death?
I had one death. So, like my grandfather. So I didn't grow up with my biological dad. So my grandfather was like that man in my life, and he died when I was 9.
Oh.
So that was my first encounter with, like, oh God. So how does this work? How do people just are not here anymore? So that's when death, I started kind of like toggling, like, okay, but where is he? Like, is he in heaven? Is he there? Like, what does heaven look like? So that's was my, and I never wanted to feel that again with like anyone close to me. So my mom so if people got sick around me, I would like freak out like, oh my gosh, like, am I going to have to deal with death again?
Mm.
And, and then you kind of think like, okay, when you die, like what happens? Like what actually happens? Because someone just kind of give me a little blueprint of what death is after, what life after death is. And in that moment, when the two cars hit me, I could just hear my windows were shattered now. So I could just hear the speed of cars. I didn't see how I was getting out of that car. I was like, okay, this is the end of me.
Jeez. So what was the conversation like with God after the fact? It's a few days later. Yes, you want to keep it moving, but at the same time, your body's like, girl, you just got into a major accident. Relax. Like, what's your conversation like with God?
It was grateful, but I had to press in because, yes, I said thank you, but there was a level of needing to understand where I was. There was a level of needing to understand how chaotic my life has become. So when I had that car crash, I was dating a guy who was literally draining me of energy. So I had to start looking, around like, why was I trying to get back? Because I wanted to go back to make money. I mean, at 31, the money I was making at 21 wasn't that much. But then it was like, I need to make this money. So it wasn't so much a conversation with God, but just understanding why I couldn't take time to thank him for saving me, that I was so eager to get back. The more I was realizing the things I was focusing on, then I realized how far I had gone from God.
Wow. Do you think that because a lot of the times, right? I know for me, when I was in my early 20s, my friend used to say, "Girl, you going nowhere fast. Like you just be on the go, you just be moving." And then it took me being in my 30s to be like, "Damn, I really was going nowhere fast." It's like I got a car, so I just want to be moving and shaking. I want to be here, there, everywhere. And none of it was purposeful. Money was being spent. It didn't make any sense until God had to sit me down. Okay. I remember the first time my car broke down on me. And then the second time my car got repoed. It was the Lord was literally trying to just slow me down and have time with him. So while you were going this, you said that you were in a relationship, you were being drained. Your homegirl said to you, "Have you gone to church?" Your mom is telling you not to go driving that day. At this point, was there other people in your life saying to you, like, or encouraging you to, like, be with the Lord, continue your relationship with God?
No, because we were all like, something very beautiful with my friendship circle is that we all kind of went on a very similar journey. Not we all didn't go through car crashes, but we all had moments in our life that's brought us back to God around the same time. So no one, like, we were all Christians, but nobody was. I wasn't the one out partying while my other friends were going to pray on Friday. So we were all. So nobody was like, go to church, as they would now if something really bad happened. So it was just a real, that little comment that my friend made was like, have you gone to church? Was the seed that needed to be planted to take me back. And going back to church, picking up a Bible again, praying again, that all started to bring back my relationship with God. I was conversating with God again, which I hadn't done in
Yes.
I hadn't done in a long time. And I think the real kick or the real switch that happened is while I was going back to God and praying, and like I said, I was having to realize what took me so far away from God. I realized that one of the major things was sex
Mm,
and shame.
I was going to ask you, the guy
So
that you were with, was he a man of God?
no,
Mm.
no.
So tell us more about, your realization with sex and shame. What was that?
So I I lost my virginity at a very young age.
Mm-hmm.
So growing up Catholic, you go to confession. And so the first time I had sex, I went to confession. Like, forgive me, God, like, won't do that again. I did it again. So forgive me, God. Then it was like, how many times are you going to go and say, forgive me, God, when you're going to carry on doing this? So that is how, I started like kind of drifting away from church, not wanting to be, you know, the naughty child in front of your dad. So after the
I
car
get that.
crash, yeah, after the car crash, and I'm having these conversations with God, I had to, and feeling filled again is, how did I get here? And then I realized, oh, it's because I felt ashamed. I felt like I couldn't go to him, knowing that once I leave church, I'm going to this guy to be a naughty girl.
Mm-hmm.
So that is, and then at that time, I was also feeling numb with sex. So I'm like, this has got to go. This has got to go. This is literally killing me.
Mm-hmm.
I can't do this anymore. And I went to confession, but this time it's like, look, I mean it. I'm confessing. I don't want this anymore. God help me. And then that is just how the scales like began to fall from my eyes. Like looking at now, I'm like being more sensitive, and not as sensitive as I am now, but just it was the beginning of that journey. Like, and not that I never had sex again after that.
Yeah.
But when I did, it didn't feel the same.
Mm-hmm.
It felt I was so convicted. I would cry. Like, it was not worth it because of the emotion that came after it. So that was one of the real switches that came on, and from there they all started to like switch on and switch on and switch on.
I totally get that, because I've dealt with, and funny thing, the enemy uses our shame and our guilt to like keep us away from the Lord, like, and God is just like, listen, give it to me. As many times you got to give it to me. And yes, he wants us to learn from it. He wants us to be disciplined enough to get over that. But sometimes we just have to like throw it to him and give it to him, because it's too much for us to carry. I've dealt with that with pornography. It's like, okay, God, like, I'm telling you, I'm sorry, I'm not going to do it again. But then, baby, a day or two later, I'm whipping out that vibrator. Lord knows, okay, getting my fix. And it's like, I really had to be disciplined and stop. But we all have been there. I know I have, Y'all let me know in the comments, because I'm sure we ain't the only ones, okay? And I'm interested. So what led you to move back to the States?
So normally when someone asks me this question, I'm like, Jesus. But my friend recently told me, she's like, stop saying that. Actually tell them the story. So I'm like, okay. She's like, you can't just say Jesus. You need to like elaborate on why. So I was at an online conference in 2020. So 2020, of course, the pandemic. The beginning of the year, I just got back from Brazil. We got back from Brazil, which was one of the most amazing trips, into the city shutting down. So we were one of the last flights back into London.
Wow.
And then the city shut down. In the beginning, I was like, oh, I didn't mind being locked up in Brazil. We could have been drinking like cocktails on the beach, but then Brazil got really bad. And I was like, okay, thank you, Lord.
Them provisions the Lord be setting.
Okay, thank you for taking us back to London. So you're kind of like navigating something that a lot of us, I think the last pandemic before COVID was, I don't know if it was the Spanish flu or something, but a lot of us, this would have been our first pandemic. So you're just trying to navigate the city being shut down, having to line up to get into the supermarket, them rationing certain things like eggs. So you kind of, trying to hold on to God in this. Church is online. You're just navigating this. So come May, June, it was VU conference, but online. It had to be online because of COVID. And I don't know what it was, but I was like, this is just going to be such an amazing conference. I'm just so expectant. Like, God's going to move. I don't know what, I guess it was the Holy Spirit.
Come on.
It was just like something, I just knew something was going to happen. I didn't know it was going to be instruction to move to Miami. But I knew something, I was going to leave with something from this conference. So we're in the conference, we're going into breakout rooms, and I'm just like, oh, this is so amazing. I'm working. So I'm working remotely, but like I'm listening to I'm muting myself at work, and I'm like in the conference. And on the last night of the conference, like they were just like, we were just praying on Zoom, we were just praying. So I go to bed, and I'm just like, oh God, that was just so amazing. I wake up, and literally, like, when you drop something in water, like, boom, in my spirit, moved to Miami. I was like, so what? Of all places, where? I started praying, like, okay, let me make sure this is not me just excited about the conference. I'm praying. He's like, no, move to Miami in 2023. I want you to go to Miami to VUCon every year until you, like, he started to give me instructions. And I was excited in the beginning. I booked my flight no more than a week after that conference and that instruction. So the first time I came to Miami was 2021. And they wasn't having VUCon. It was still kind of pandemic. So is it going to happen? Is it not going to happen? So I was like, okay, God, it doesn't really look like the conference is going to happen. Maybe I didn't hear you wrong. You said go to VUCon. He said still go. People can't fly out. So especially America, they weren't letting people in from London because our COVID rates were so high. So I'm like, I'm not going to be able to go. I'm not going to be able to go. But because I have an American passport, because I was born here, they let me in. So it was like every time I wanted to stop, like God's like, no, like, go. I trust me, go. And he just opened the door for me to come that first time. And it was amazing. I met people. I got to go to church. Some people that I met on that trip, I'm still friends with till today. Like, as we kind of actually do life with each other. So that was the first trip.
Pause. Because I know the girls are like, wait a minute. What do you mean God done spoke to you, told you to come to Miami? First of all, they're going to ask, what does it sound like? What does it sound like when God speaks to you?
You know what? So in the last year or so, I've now really come to terms of like the gift and the verbiage of calling it a dreamer. Mm-hmm. So I've always dreamt, but I was just like, Mama had a scary dream, right? Now I know, no, I'm a dreamer. So that's always been a way God has spoken to me. But this message specifically was, the drop was literally just, it was in my, I couldn't explain it, but I just couldn't shake in my, like, this warmth in my heart, move to Miami.
Yes.
I'm kind of like saying it back to God, like, you know, and you're just like talking to yourself, like, God, move to Miami. And like, you feel this like vibrate, you feel this warmth, like yes, move to Miami. So that night I like worship music, like shut my door, like family, no one disturb me.
Create a space.
You know, just like, okay, like God, let me just, is this me being excited, you know? So I'm like with my journal, like, okay, God, you told me to move to this, da 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 da. And as I'm writing, I'm like the worship and I'm praying, the download just comes, move to Miami in 2023. Like, you know, in 2023.
Very clear.
Got it. Yeah. It's not audible because there's different ways. Some, you know, people hear God in a very audible way, but it's just very sensitive to the spirit. So some of the things that people can do who are like, oh, but how does God speak to me? There's one, pray about it. Two, if you have someone who is a little senior, like a mentor, kind of like let them guide you. Or there's like tests, right? There's actually, you know, people have created these tests about spiritual gifts and how to hear, like, you know, to test how you hear God. So I knew that I was a feeler because a lot of times when God tells me something, I feel it, like with Miami. Mm-hmm. And I did a test which confirmed it. Yes, I'm a feeler and a seer, obviously through dreams and like through prophecy. So that was a me feeling what the Lord was telling me.
Let me ask, because I'm a dreamer as well. Everybody could, well, those who know me know, like, it comes to me and it comes instant. Like, for example, there's this one dream I had about my brother, and it was just like he was all over the news. And it's just like, it didn't say what he did on the news, but he was all over the news, and everybody's like, your brother's in jail. Your brother. He's on the news. So that morning I called him and I said, hey, you know, like, you okay? Everything okay? He's just like, yeah. I said, all right, well, today just keep your head on a swivel. Cause my brother's a bad boy. You know, he's in the streets and everything. And maybe 2 hours later I get to work and he calls me back. And he said, why'd you say that to me? He said, you had a dream? I said, yeah, but you know, I didn't want to verbally say it. So I'm very selective because sometimes it's like, okay, let me just say it. And then sometimes it's like, hold your tongue. I told you what it is, but it's not meant for you to go and share right now.
Exactly, yeah.
So I ended up telling him, listen, man, I saw you all over the news in my dream. Later that day, a few hours later, he ended up getting locked up. I'm calling his phone because people are like, yo, he got locked. I'm like, there's no way. In my head, I'm like, way, but there's no way.
Yeah.
Calling him the next day, he ends up bailing out. And he's like, damn, man. So if you're a dreamer, I would say that, yes, you can't take everything for what it is, but they do come in a way where it's like, okay, how can I discern this? Let me keep praying on this. What does this really mean? So I
Yeah.
totally get that. How difficult was it for you to be obedient to the request to move to Miami? Because you're a young lady, and I'm not sure if you moved with anybody else.
No,
But
by
talk to me about
myself.
the obedience of moving to Miami after knowing that.
So I think God knows his kids.
Mm.
So he knows me and knew that I needed time. So he needed me to get out all my emotions. So the first trip was the excited trip. Like, oh my gosh, like, yeah, okay, I can do this. It's like the beaches. Like, I love, like, I like to look like this. I can't look like this all the time in London because it's cold. So it was more exciting, my first solo trip by myself. I'm like in Starbucks. So he kind of like gave me that. The second trip was more grounding. So I was mindful of the places I would stay. So I was purposely picking like hotels or accommodations that had a kitchen. So what I would do, I wouldn't treat it like a holiday. I wouldn't treat it as a vacation. I'll treat it as practice living here. So the second time I made sure I got like a hotel that had like a kitchen. So I did grocery shopping. I meal prepped because I was here for 10 days. So I meal prepped. I was like, we're going to just like be getting takeout. I meal prepped. I rented a car to okay, I tried to open up a bank account. That didn't work. But, you know, he knew I needed time. He knew I needed time. So the first one was exciting. The second one was more grounding, reconnecting with the people that I met the previous year. And so the second time was 2022. So I came in June. I have 7 months till the real move now. So it's not even a full year. So now I've got 7 months to the full move. So then it gets a bit like real. You're leaving your family, you're leaving your friends, you're leaving the everything to leave. But what I could stand on is the two previous journeys that I've been on. The first one, people had to cancel their flights. God didn't let you cancel your flight. These hotels I was staying at were like expensive, but God was like they were affordable due to the pandemic. He was making. Wow. I could stand on the way the way the trips were before.
For sure.
I'm like, all my questions about, oh my God, like, where am I going to stay? Like, am I going to get the right job that's going to pay me enough to like live the lifestyle that I want? And he's like, look at the places you stayed before. Look how much they were. You think I'm going to let you stay there for 10 days, but I'm not going to give you an apartment. Like, I'm not going to give you, so that's 6 months where the questions, the excitement is gone. The nerves are here now. The anxiety is creeping in. He's pointing me back to the 2 trips I've taken before. Like, look at that. I'm going to do that. Trust me. But that is where I had to pull on that obedience. He knew I needed time, so he gave me the time.
Yes.
And when I got on, when D-Day came, the time to
D-Day.
it felt like D-Day. Well, my room was empty. I sold my car. Like, I said goodbye to my friends. My mom is one of the strongest people I know. She's not not that crying, but she's not a crier. Is crying.
Aww.
Like, I am just like, what am I about to do? And there's no job, there's no apartment, there's no banking, there's nothing sturdy. But what God is telling me. So
crazy faith.
Yeah. So I'm walking through security, and I love to travel. So going through the airport is normal. Like, I know what to do. Like, you know when to take off the things, when to take off the shoe.
Yes.
I was a mess. I was dropping my neck pillow. Like, I was losing things. People like, sorry, is this yours? I'm like, oh yeah. I'm crying, a mess. I go to the wrong gate. So I get on a plane to Miami, one-way flight, with no apartment, no job, no car, no one on the other side waiting to pick me up. Just me. Just me. And I get to that. I stayed in a couple of hotels until I could find an apartment. So I'm in this first hotel, just looking at my 4 suitcases, like, oh, okay. Like, you know, people say, oh, living in a hotel. Like, I'm
Yes.
in a hotel. So I'm looking at my 4 suitcases, like, God, where do I go from here?
Mm-hmm.
And one friend, so of course I'm having like last minute dinners, hangouts with friends before I go. And one of my last coffee dates with a friend, she said to me, trust me, when you get there, God is gonna just do it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you're gonna call me and be like, I don't know why I was worrying. God did it. So
Mm-hmm.
she told me there was a job she wanted one time a few years ago. And she just said, you know what, I'm going to put on the strength of God, faith. And she walked around this building 7 times, like the walls of Jericho,
Ooh,
praying.
yes.
So I get here and I was like, you know what? I have to, it can't be the kind of faith that I've had before. Like, this is new territory. This is like,
Come with it.
So I'm like, okay, you want me here? So I'm doing things out of the ordinary. So I'm viewing apartment. The apartment I'm in right now, I was like, this is perfect. This is everything I wanted. Like, it has the balcony. It has, a walk-in. It had everything I had written on my list, but I had no job. So she was like, yeah, I don't think you're gonna get approved. I was like, oh God, please. So on Sunday, I went to church a couple of Sundays before I went, and the pastor gave me strict instructions. She said, no matter how crazy it gets, make sure the first Sunday you go to church. That is going to set the tone for the rest of your journey there. No matter what, do not miss the first Sunday. So I went to church. I'm like, just riding emotions. And something just said, you know what? No more being sad. You've been here a week. Like, let's get to it.
Yes.
I come to this building outside and I start praying. I couldn't figure out how to walk around the building. So I said, okay, I can't figure that out, but I'm just going to stand here. I started praying in tongues. I was
Oh
like,
my.
God, the unit, like the unit number, unit da is mine, Lord Jesus. I know you're going to do it for me. They said no, but I know you're saying yes. I literally started praying,
Mm.
praying. I buy a candle from Bath and Body Works. I was like, I don't have an apartment yet, but this is the candle I'm going to light in my apartment.
Ooh, the
I go
details.
back,
Come on.
yeah. I go back to the hotel. I watch a movie. I'm eating my birria tacos. I go to bed. I wake up from a text from my mom saying, I found someone to co-list the apartment with you. Yeah.
Look at how God be moving. He makes it effortless, but he's waiting for that crazy faith. So what advice would you give to a young girl who feels the same in a sense of like, God wants me to move here? What advice could you even give to her being in the position that you were in?
Stay close to God.
Mm-hmm.
Stay close to, I stay close to God, but where I am now, I could have stayed even closer. I could have pressed. When you think you've pressed or prayed enough, pray even more.
Ooh.
Like, stay so close to God because you need that unwavering trust in Him
Yes.
for it to for one, for Him to move. He's gonna move, but for you to see it,
Mm-hmm.
if you are not there, I could have easily been like, oh my God, like luck, like, oh my God, how lucky was that? But it's not luck, because I was pressing in. I'm like, no, I have a story to tell now that glorifies God. I stood out of a building, I prayed, I got that apartment.
Mm-hmm.
Within 2 weeks of moving to Miami, I moved on the 14th of February. I said, it's Valentine's Day, it's the cheapest flight. I'm single, I've got nothing to lose.
Mm-hmm.
I moved. On the 28th, I've been approved for an apartment. I'm starting a new job. Within a month, the 13th of March, I have a car. So within 1 month of moving to Miami, God did it all. So any
Ooh.
doubts I had, oh, are you sure you want me to move? He knocked that out. Did I move at the right time, the right month? He looked like, so staying close to God, He's going to move regardless, but it gives you eyes and understanding to see Him and know He's moving for you.
For sure.
You
For
know?
sure. My younger self, I've always said, because I've been asked the question, what advice would you give your younger self? Stay close to God. Stay close to God because people may, deceive you. You may deceive yourself, but baby, stay close to God. My God, what a testimony. Okay, there's so many things that I want to get into with you because your story is incredible. Your strength, okay, you got the strength of your honorable ancestors on you. I can feel that.
But
Let's
it's
talk.
Jesus,
It really is Jesus. Like, be
you
making a
know?
way.
And I think that story that that testimony, I still have to stand on it. So that was the first month. Okay, great, amazing. It's been 2 years now and it hasn't been all amazing. So when I feel down, when I feel doubtful, I have to go back to that first month.
Yes,
He
yes,
did
yes.
that for you in a month. It's not only for other people, it's for me as well. It's like to stand on that testimony as well, that he did it for you. So you're on the right place. So whenever I doubt or get sad, I have to remember he wants me here for a reason.
Absolutely, absolutely. So it's been 2 years. What are you like getting into? What is work like in Miami? What are you doing now? Because I know you have Real Talks with Shans, which is another
Yes.
podcast,
Yes.
which you guys make sure you go follow and subscribe on
I'm a
Spotify.
little baby. I'm a little baby in the podcast industry.
Girl, your voice, everything, like how you tell a story, chef kiss. So, what is going on now in Miami for you?
So I'm currently a HR manager.
Mm-hmm.
Which
Ooh,
I've been
HR manager. Y'all better be on y'all P's and Q's.
So I've been in the HR world for 6 years. So yeah, I've been doing that. I was doing that in London, so I kind of was able to transition into that.
Mm-hmm.
I go to church. I have my girls, I have my friends. I love to be out in the sun. That is the one thing I'm like, thank you, Jesus, that I live where there's like sun
Praise
majority of the
God.
time.
Okay.
um I'm building a podcast. I'm trying to build, a platform. So Real Talk with Shants is a podcast. And I've also been doing Real Talk with Shants socials. So in London, we love to have a good time.
Yes.
So, and having a good time doesn't mean being in the club. So we can get ready, get glam, go to dinner, go to a bar, still have fun in a good way. No one's like no one's getting drunk.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I feel like I'm trying to build that here, So I'm
Yes.
trying to build that here. So that's still new as well, but Real Talk with Shant Social. So I've done a couple of dinners where it's like get cute, like, we play games, we, go to nice restaurants.
Can I come?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Because I love to get cute and go to nice restaurants too. I love to be around like minded women. So,
Yeah.
yes.
I'm
I
trying
love
to
that.
get guys as well. I'm trying to get so it's like, a mixture of like guys and girls, like.
We're very similar in that way. It's so interesting. Shout out to my producer who made the connection. Because even with Pretty Girl Progression, when God called me to build Pretty Girl Progression back in 2012, he didn't say build, call it Pretty Girl Progression. He says, you're going to do something with women, not just in the city, but the world. And I'm like, what? Like, what? But years later, this is what it's grown into. So, I used to do like backyard parties, not parties, but they used to be like cocktails and conversations because it's
Yes.
not like I was like super saved, but it's like I love the Lord, but I was like trying to figure things out myself, very similar in a lot of ways. So I used to have guys come over, girls, have stimulating conversations, create the atmosphere. And I still do that in a lot of ways now. So please invite me out, y'all, and
No,
I'll tell y'all all
100%.
about it.
Yeah.
I wanna know like what is like the dating difference from London to Miami? Are you dating? I know you're single, but like
Yes.
are we going to like Christian events and meeting people? What's the vibe for you?
I haven't been to any of those. I am just like I'm just not the dating app. I've tried Hinge. I'm just not the dating app person. I love just to, be like, oh, okay, just,
Meet organically.
yeah, and so I've tried. It didn't work. Not dating anyone. I've spoken to a couple of guys who, it just, we went on the same path. So that didn't take. But no, so
What would you
I
say the
can't make.
difference is in London versus Miami men?
So I don't think it is so much London versus Miami. I think my circle and my environment in London is very black.
Mm-hmm.
So we're all we're all from kind of cut from the same cloth. So it's not hard to, it's almost like, okay, like you see someone, you like someone, like you're just able to like gel a little easier. Where here, Miami is also another melting pot,
Mm-hmm.
but I feel there's many more cultures and personalities. So it's a little bit more, to the two guys that I spoke to, it it's a little bit more, how do I say this? How do I say it? It just it's just different. It's
Yes.
different. So I think it's, from my perspective, it isn't so much London, Miami. It's just my London was just very different.
Mm-hmm.
Where I'm in an environment where a lot of us have known each other for a long time. So even though as the kind of like groups or circles or environments gets bigger,
Yeah.
there is from like branches from people you know. So it's, we're all kind of cut from the same cloth in a kind of way, you know.
Yeah.
You can do investigating from a distance. You kind of like, so by the time you get there, you already kind of know what's up, you know. Where here is like, I have to be very mindful, you
Mm-hmm.
know. Someone's telling me they're Christian, but they're talking about, you know, like chi and I'm like, huh? What?
The sage and the crystals and all the
Yeah.
thing. And y'all, because if you know my journey, I was into it, and man, it's been a while, but I threw out my sage, threw out my crystals. Because those were what they would call tools, but God is the ultimate. Like, so it's like none of that really matters. I wanted to ask you, like, what is the most important thing you look for in a relationship?
Partnership.
Mm-hmm.
So I do want, I'm going to do quote unquote that traditional man female. Like I do want, I know there's some women who are like, no, I don't want to be at home cooking and da da da. But I do want to play that role,
Mm-hmm.
quote unquote, like not to in a modern sense, you're right. But
So
I
what would that look like for you?
so I'm ready to. I want to build Real Talk with Shants in both avenues, with the socials and the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
There's also something else that I'm working on, and I hope with those three things that allows me to really take control of my schedule, where I'm able to be a homemaker but still run a business.
Yes.
So yes, I'm at home cooking. Like I want to be at home with the kids. Like I want to play that very active role in my children's lives. Not that my mother didn't, but she had to work.
For sure.
So coming from a big family, everybody's able to chip in. I never feared of who was gonna be like, who's gonna pick me up. There's always somebody at my place. There's someone taking me to ballet. There's someone. So I didn't lack in that sense, but there is another level that I got to help my mum out with my younger siblings. So I just think how much more beautiful, she would have loved to take it to that next level.
For
So how
sure.
much more beautiful would it be if I have a partner who would allow me to do that?
Yes, yes, yes. I get that. Like I say for my podcast, I want to be able to build the podcast because they talk about the Proverbs 31 woman, right? But she was a working
They love
woman.
it. They love to
She
talk
wasn't
about
she
it.
was not just a stay-at-home woman
Mm-mm.
cooking and cleaning. Like she had her businesses going, she had
Yeah.
her maids.
Yeah.
Baby was out there getting to the bread.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I want to be that woman and still build, but I want to have complete control of my
Yes.
schedule, complete control of my freedom. So whether that looks like I get up in the morning and I could take 10 minutes to stretch my body out of the bed, open up my window, see nothing but greenery outside, get my face routine going, go and be able to make breakfast for the kids or my husband, and then get on some meetings and then be done at 2:00 if I want to. It's giving, I'm still paid, but still very much with my family, and the village is still villaging.
Exactly.
So I get that. Oh my gosh. Oh
You know,
my God.
I want to make bread. Like, I want my kids to be like, "Oh, can we have like homemade bread?" I'm like, "Okay, let me just go and bake some
Yeah.
bread." You know?
Yes. Oh man. So I don't know if I asked you, but I want to know like what is the biggest culture shock to you now? You're 2 years into Miami. What's been the biggest culture shock?
I think, hmm. It's not that big because again, Miami has Haitians, Jamaicans, you know,
That
Latino.
got
Are
fit to
you
my zones.
Haitian?
Yeah, I'm Haitian.
Ah, so you know, so that sense it's almost like okay, I've moved away from the Nigerians, the Ghanaians, the Jamaicans, but then I've kind of like transitioned over to another culture.
hmm
So for me, it's just now the not being around so many Nigerians.
Yes.
And I realized how much that Nigerian culture I was embedded in. So I have to kind of like carry that myself now. So yes, I would say that's the biggest. So even though I'm still around culture, I'm just around a different culture now.
Because I feel like it's like black and proud,
Yeah.
like it's just like Nigerians, Ghanaians. It's just so proud. And I get that. Like you want to be around that culture, especially in Miami.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of bit of everything. It's a sprinkles
Yeah,
of
so it's still
everything.
culture, but just different. It's just now I'm not around, you know, a lot of Nigerians with the music and like just even the way we speak, like, you know, we kind of the way you have like Spanglish or like Franglish, we have our
Yeah.
kind of like
Franglish?
Nigeria. We have our little Nigerian lingo mixed in with our South London, you know, so being away from that was a culture shock
hmm
and food. So again, I could just go and get Nigerian food or Jamaican food. You can still get here, but not the Nigerian food. So I'm like having to figure out how to make a lot of stuff myself now.
Girl, you got to cook at home.
Yeah.
So, Shans, I want to play a game with you called This or That. Okay?
Okay.
You ready? So,
Yes.
feel free while we play to just kind of like explain your answer. Let me know what you think on why you picked the question. Okay?
Okay.
All right. So, let's get into it. Hold on now. So, we're going to go lifestyle and glow up right now. So, glitz and glam or holistic healing?
Glitz and glam.
I feel like that's the obvious. It's like, come on now.
I think
I'm like the girly girl.
100%.
For
Retail
sure.
therapy is a real thing.
Okay, public proposal or intimate proposal?
Intimate proposal.
Hmm.
Intimate. I don't know what my emotions would be like on that day, and I don't know if I want a lot of people around me. I don't know. So um, intimate. Maybe when we get back, there's friends, but intimate. I'm definitely for the intimate proposal.
For sure. Okay, so therapy or talking to your homegirl?
Oh, can I pick both?
Ooh, it's a good one. I know it's a good one.
Yeah, because like, you need both, you know. So obviously, I shared that I was in therapy, but I haven't been in therapy in 10 years. And my best friend, she was like, you know, these last 3 years have been a lot. You need to go back. Not you need to go back to therapy, but may be beneficial for you to go and like, you know, professionally kind of talk through and process everything you've been through for the last 3 years. So
For sure.
both.
Yeah. I do therapy. So when you say need to go back, it be like that. Like I need to go to therapy, I need to continue on because, again, like it's a little different talking to like my siblings or a homegirl versus
Yeah.
someone who is unbiased, who has professional advice, can give me some homework. It just feels a little different.
Yeah. No, 100%.
So I get that. Okay, so pastor's wife vibe or first lady energy?
Oh, wait, say that again.
Past pastor's wife vibes or first lady energy?
Pastor's wife.
Mm.
Like I just feel like, oh, wow, what a good word. Yeah, yes. Hallelujah. Rather than kind of like, first, like I'm just like, yes.
Yeah. It's so interesting. I always joke with my man. He has this like, he is a God-fearing man, okay? And I always joke with him like, you really don't want to be a pastor, right? Like God didn't really call you to that because, I'm still working on myself. So I don't want to be up in the church first. Like he's like, nah, I promise you, God didn't call me to that. God called me for something else. So, woo.
I love it.
All right, let's do one more. This is interesting, but mercy or karma?
Mercy. Mercy,
Mm-hmm.
mercy, mercy. Because if God operated with giving us what we deserve, mercy, mercy all the way.
Or even putting us on Front Street from what we done did.
Mercy. Thank you, Jesus, for
Thank you,
mercy.
Lord. Because Lord knows y'all would have been like, what?
Yeah.
Okay, I love that. I love the this or that. So let me ask you this, because you're a podcaster and I know you're new to podcasting. I get all the time people ask me podcast questions. What advice would you give to someone who is a new podcaster?
I mean, for myself, what I'm trying to do is be more consistent, first of all. I think knowing what you want your podcast to be about. So, again, mine is just very, someone asked me kind of like, oh, is your podcast to like, you want people to see God? I'm like, as a Christian woman, I always want people to see God.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not going to only have pastors or like leaders in the church on my podcast. I want it to be very authentic.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the gifts or abilities God has given me, to be authentic and vulnerable, because through that, people like who don't feel comfortable or feel shame or will feel the ability to draw near. So in a way, yes, I do want people to come, but I'm not there only talking about scriptures. That will come naturally, but I want it to be authentic. So knowing what you want your podcast to be about, or the feel,
Yes.
to the feel of what you want people to experience, and just building it. I've had to more look at it like, okay, you have a part-time job. So when I come home, like yesterday, I was asking my friend who helps me with the podcast, like, hey, like, do you think I can get the episode now? So not giving up. So, I haven't been able to do, okay, I'm weekly or I'm bi-weekly. I'm trying to get to that, but just not giving up, because I know, one, I'm not doing the podcast for myself just to be like, hey, look at me, Shant, to have a podcast. It's really God placed this on my heart. So that's my why and how I want it to feel. So don't give up.
Mm-hmm.
Know what you want your podcast to be about, and kind of just be authentic. Whatever that looks like to you, be authentic.
I love that. I say all the time, it is hard work. I love that you said it's not about, for me, it ain't about me, baby. I do not get up, do my makeup, build all this, pour so much money. It's not for me. And before I start my episode, I pray before, because I'm like, God, just use me. You told me to
Yes.
do this. I'm doing it. Just please guide me. So
Yes.
and stay consistent, y'all. Stay consistent. Sometimes it gets overwhelming.
Mm-hmm.
But trust me, there's somebody who needed to hear it. So you're good. Let me ask you, because we're going to wrap up soon. What does pretty girl progression mean to you?
Well, when I heard, like, when Wes kind of like, it was like, oh, I produced this podcast, like, check it out, like, this is her Instagram. The name alone, I was like, Pretty Girl Progression. I was like, oh my God, like, I belong here. I just think it's like, for me, how I felt when I saw that name, it's the boldness about it, It's like, come, like, sisters, like, let's get together, some people may be like, oh, pretty girls, so like, what, you're not pretty? And I'm like, no woman is not pretty. You know what I'm saying? It's like, no woman is not pretty. We all look different.
Amen.
We all kind of, so just pretty girl progression to me is kind of like, pull whoever you are out, and let's go. Like, let's go.
Absolutely. Shant, it's been amazing. Is there anything you want to leave our girls with? Anything that you feel like you needed to say or want to share before we get out of here?
No, I just think, like, as women, we come in different shapes, different sizes, different skin types, especially as Black women.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think, like, today, when we agreed to on this date, I had my look ready. I want to look like the sunshine. I was gonna get my makeup done, but today just didn't work out like that.
And you're still
But
giving.
have the confidence in who you are. Makeup, no makeup, head. Well, always have your hair done. Always have your hair done. Okay, slick bun. Like always have your hair done.
Okay.
But just we're all different. But just whoever you are, be true to who you are, be unapologetic, and just love Jesus, and He's got you.
Amen. Girl, thank you so much for just taking time out. I know you're going to, spend time with your girls. Happy Women's Month, okay?
Yes, today's International Women's Day.
Absolutely. So it was a perfect day to have this conversation. And I look forward to way more conversations and our girl meetup as well.
Yes,
I look
100%.
forward to it for sure. Y'all,
Thank you so much.
Of course, I'm going to add Shan's information in the description below. Let us know how you liked and enjoyed this conversation, y'all. And until next time, Queens, love yourself.